They say a mother's love knows no bounds, that a mother will do anything, sacrifice everything to protect her child. But what happens when that love is tested by betrayal, by greed, by someone who was supposed to be family? Today I'm bringing you a story that will make your blood boil, and then make you stand up and cheer. This is the story of Michael, a loving husband and father whose life was destroyed in an instant. This is the story of Jessica, a woman who showed her true colors when tragedy struck. And this is the story of a mother, a retired lawyer known as the Queen of Law, who refused to let her family be torn apart. If this story moves you, make sure to comment what state you're watching from, and subscribe to American Shadow, because we're diving deep into a tale of betrayal, justice, and the unbreakable bond between a mother and her son. Let's begin. The perfect family. Until it wasn't. Michael had everything a man could want: a successful career, a beautiful daughter named Sarah, and a wife he adored, Jessica. They lived in a comfortable home, the kind of place where you could imagine growing old together, watching your kids grow up, building memories that would last a lifetime. Michael's mother, let's call her Margaret, she watched her son build this life with pride. Margaret wasn't just any mother. She was a retired lawyer, a woman who had spent decades in courtrooms fighting battles that most people wouldn't dare to touch. They called her the Queen of Law back in her day, and for good reason. She was ruthless, brilliant, and always got justice for her clients. But Margaret had left that life behind. She'd retired years ago, content to spend her days as a grandmother, doting on little Sarah and enjoying the peace she'd earned after a lifetime of legal warfare. Life was good. Life was simple. Life was perfect. And then everything changed in a single moment. The accident that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning. Michael was driving to work, just like he did every day. The roads were clear, the weather was fine. There was no reason to think anything would go wrong. But life doesn't always give us warnings. A drunk driver ran a red light and slammed into Michael's car at full speed. The impact was devastating. Michael survived, but barely. When he woke up in the hospital days later, the doctors delivered news that would shatter his world. Michael was now paralyzed from the waist down. He would never walk again. His life as he knew it was over. Can you imagine that? One moment, you're living your normal life, and the next, everything you took for granted is ripped away from you. Your independence, your ability to do simple things like walk across a room, play with your daughter, live without needing constant help. Michael was devastated. But he had Jessica, he had Sarah, he had his mother, and he truly believed, that they would get through this together. But Jessica had other plans. Jessica's true colors. At first, Jessica played the part of the devoted wife. She visited Michael in the hospital, held his hand, whispered words of encouragement. "We'll get through this," she said. "I'll always be here for you." Margaret watched from the corner of the hospital room, and something in her gut told her something was wrong. She'd spent decades reading people in courtrooms, watching liars try to deceive judges and juries. And she saw something in Jessica's eyes that made her uneasy. But she said nothing. After all, this was her son's wife, the mother of her granddaughter. Maybe she was just being paranoid. When Michael finally came home, the reality of his new life set in. He needed help with everything: bathing, dressing, getting in and out of bed. His independence was gone, and his spirit was slowly breaking, and that's when Jessica's mask began to slip. The loving words stopped. The gentle touches disappeared. Instead, Jessica became cold, distant, cruel. She would snap at Michael for needing help. She would complain about how much work it was to take care of him. She acted as if his disability was an inconvenience, a burden she never signed up for. Margaret watched in horror as Jessica's true nature revealed itself. But it got worse. So much worse. The ultimatum one evening, about 6 months after the accident, Jessica sat Michael down and delivered the blow that would nearly destroy him. "I want a divorce," she said, her voice cold and emotionless. "And I want the house. I want full custody of Sarah. You can't take care of yourself, let alone a child. It's better this way." Michael was stunned. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. This was the woman he'd loved, the woman he'd built a life with, and she was abandoning him at his lowest point. "Jessica, please," he begged. "We can work through this. I know things are hard right now, but—" "Hard?" Jessica interrupted, her voice dripping with contempt. "You have no idea how hard this has been for me. I didn't sign up to be a nurse. I didn't sign up to take care of a cripple." The word hung in the air like poison. Michael felt something inside him break. Not just his heart, but his will to fight. Margaret, who had been in the next room, heard everything, and in that moment, the Queen of Law awakened from her retirement. The scheme revealed. Margaret didn't confront Jessica right away. No, she was smarter than that. Instead, she started digging. She hired a private investigator, used her old connections, and began piecing together the truth about Jessica's sudden change of heart. And what she found was disgusting. Jessica had been planning this for months. Even before the accident, she'd been unhappy in the marriage, resentful of Michael's success, jealous of the life they'd built together. But she'd stayed because of the house, the financial security, the comfortable lifestyle. When Michael became disabled, Jessica saw an opportunity. She could leave him, take everything, and play the victim. "My poor husband is disabled. I tried so hard, but I just couldn't handle it anymore." She'd get sympathy, keep the house, get full custody of Sarah, and walk away with everything while Michael was left with nothing. But there was more. The private investigator discovered that Jessica had been having an affair. For over a year, she'd been seeing another man. A man she planned to move in with once she kicked Michael out of his own home. Margaret's blood boiled. This woman had betrayed her son in every possible way. And now she was going to use his disability, his vulnerability, to rob him of everything he had left. But Jessica had made one critical mistake. She had underestimated Margaret, the mother's plan. Margaret sat down with Michael and laid out everything she'd discovered. The affair, the scheme, the plan to take everything from him. Michael was devastated, but he was also defeated. "Mom, what's the point?" he said, tears streaming down his face. "Even if I fight her, I can't win. Look at me. I can't even take care of myself. How am I supposed to take care of Sarah? Maybe Jessica's right. Maybe it's better if I just let go." Margaret grabbed her son's hand, her voice firm and unwavering. "Listen to me, Michael. You are not giving up. You are not letting that woman destroy you. I didn't raise a quitter, and I certainly didn't raise someone who would let a snake like Jessica take his daughter away from him." Michael looked up at his mother, and for the first time since the accident, he saw a glimmer of hope in her eyes. "I was the Queen of Law, Michael," Margaret continued. "I've taken down criminals, con artists, and liars far more skilled than Jessica. And I promise you, I will not let her win." Margaret dusted off her old law books, called in favors from former colleagues, and began building a case that would expose Jessica for exactly what she was. A greedy, heartless opportunist who had no right to take anything from Michael, let alone his daughter. The courtroom battle was about to begin, and Jessica had no idea what was coming for her. The courtroom showdown, round 1. When the divorce proceedings began, Jessica walked into the courtroom with confidence. She had her lawyer, a slick, expensive attorney who specialized in taking advantage of situations just like this. She smiled sweetly at the judge, played the role of the exhausted, overwhelmed wife who had tried her best but just couldn't cope anymore. Her lawyer painted a picture of Michael as a man who could no longer function, who needed constant care, who was in no position to raise a child. My client only wants what's best for her daughter, the lawyer said. And sadly, Mr. Michael is simply not capable of providing a stable home for Sarah. The judge seemed sympathetic. Jessica's performance was convincing. For a moment, it looked like she might actually win. And then, Margaret stood up. She hadn't officially announced that she would be representing Michael. She'd let Jessica and her lawyer believe they were going up against some inexperienced attorney, someone they could easily steamroll. But now, as Margaret rose to her feet, the atmosphere in the courtroom shifted. "Your Honor," Margaret said, her voice calm but commanding. "I am Margaret Thompson, and I will be representing my son, Michael, in these proceedings. Some of you may remember me. I spent 30 years in this courthouse, and I never lost a case that mattered." Jessica's face went pale. Her lawyer looked like he'd just been punched in the gut. The judge actually smiled. "Welcome back, Ms. Thompson," the judge said. "The court is eager to hear what you have to say." And with that, Margaret began to dismantle Jessica's lies piece by piece. Exposing the truth. Margaret didn't waste time. She presented the evidence methodically, calmly, like a surgeon cutting away infected tissue. First, she addressed the claim that Michael was incapable of caring for Sarah. She brought in medical experts who testified that Michael's disability did not affect his mental capacity, his ability to parent, or his love for his daughter. She showed the court video evidence of Michael reading to Sarah, helping her with homework, being the loving father he'd always been. "My son may not be able to walk," Margaret said, "but he is more than capable of being the parent Sarah needs. In fact, he's been doing it every single day since the accident." Then, Margaret turned her attention to Jessica. She presented the evidence of the affair. Text messages, photos, financial records showing money spent on hotels and gifts for Jessica's lover. The courtroom fell silent as the truth unfolded. "Your Honor," Margaret said, her voice cutting through the tension, "this woman is not seeking a divorce because she's overwhelmed. She's seeking a divorce because she's been unfaithful, because she sees an opportunity to profit from my son's suffering, and because she never truly loved him in the first place." Jessica's lawyer tried to object, tried to spin the affair as irrelevant, but Margaret wasn't done. She presented evidence that Jessica had been liquidating joint assets, hiding money, preparing to leave Michael with nothing. "This is not a case of a struggling wife who needs support," Margaret continued. "This is a case of calculated betrayal, and I will not allow this court to reward such cruelty." The judge leaned back in his chair, his expression unreadable. Jessica sat frozen, her carefully constructed image crumbling around her. The final blow. But Margaret saved the best for last. She called a witness to the stand, Jessica's lover. The man looked uncomfortable, squirming under Margaret's piercing gaze. "Tell the court," Margaret said. "When did your relationship with Jessica begin?" The man hesitated, glancing at Jessica, who was shaking her head frantically. "Answer the question," the judge ordered. About a year and a half ago," the man admitted. "A year and a half," Margaret repeated. "That means the affair began before my son's accident, before he became disabled. Jessica was already planning to leave him. She was just waiting for the right moment." The courtroom erupted in whispers. Jessica's lawyer tried to do damage control, but it was too late. The truth was out. Margaret turned to the judge, her voice steady and strong. "Your Honor, this woman does not deserve custody of Sarah. She does not deserve the house. She does not deserve a single penny of my son's money. What she deserves is to be held accountable for her actions." The judge nodded slowly. "Ms. Thompson, I've heard enough. We'll adjourn for today, but I believe I have a clear picture of what's happening here." Jessica left the courtroom in tears, her confident facade completely shattered. Michael, sitting in his wheelchair, looked up at his mother with gratitude and pride. "Thank you, Mom," he whispered. Margaret smiled. "It's not over yet, son, but we're going to win." Part 10. The Verdict. 2 weeks later, the judge delivered his ruling. The courtroom was packed. Friends, family, and even some of Margaret's old colleagues had come to witness the conclusion of this dramatic case. The judge addressed Jessica first. "Mrs. Jessica, I have reviewed all the evidence presented in this case, and I am deeply troubled by what I've seen. Your actions demonstrate a pattern of deceit, manipulation, and a fundamental lack of care for your husband and daughter." Jessica sat silently, her hands trembling. "Therefore," the judge continued, "I am denying your request for full custody of Sarah. I am awarding primary custody to Michael, with supervised visitation for you, pending further evaluation. Additionally, the marital home will remain with Michael, as it was purchased primarily with his earnings, and you have demonstrated that your interest in it is purely financial." Jessica gasped, her face turning red with anger and humiliation. The judge wasn't finished. "Furthermore, I am ordering you to pay spousal support to Michael for the next 3 years, given that your actions have directly contributed to his financial hardship during this difficult time. And finally, I am requiring you to attend mandatory counseling before any custody arrangements can be revisited." The gavel came down with a resounding crack. Jessica had lost everything. Michael had won. Part 11. Justice and Healing. As they left the courthouse, Michael looked up at his mother, tears of joy streaming down his face. "I can't believe it, Mom. I can't believe you did it." Margaret knelt down beside his wheelchair, taking his hands in hers. "I told you, Michael. I would never let anyone destroy my family. You are my son, and I will always fight for you." Sarah, who had been staying with Margaret during the proceedings, ran over and hugged her father. "Daddy, you're coming home." Michael held his daughter tight, feeling whole for the first time since the accident. Not because he could walk again, but because he had his daughter, his mother, and his dignity back. Jessica, on the other hand, left the courthouse alone. Her lover had disappeared the moment things got messy. Her friends had turned their backs on her, and her reputation was in ruins. She had gambled everything on greed, and lost. The aftermath. In the months that followed, Michael began to rebuild his life. With his mother's help, he adapted to his new reality. He got a specially equipped vehicle so he could drive again. He started working from home, using his skills to build a new career that didn't require him to be in an office. And most importantly, he was there for Sarah. Every morning, every night, every moment she needed him. He proved what Margaret had always known, that being a good father has nothing to do with whether you can walk. Margaret, having tasted the thrill of the courtroom one last time, decided to stay retired. But she kept her law license active, just in case her family ever needed her again. As for Jessica, she moved to another state, trying to escape the shame of what she'd done. But the internet never forgets. Her story spread, a cautionary tale about greed, betrayal, and what happens when you underestimate a mother's love. The lessons we learn. This story teaches us so much. It reminds us that disability does not define a person's worth. Michael may have lost the ability to walk, but he never lost what mattered most: his love for his daughter, his strength of character, and his determination to be a good father. It also reminds us that greed and betrayal have consequences. Jessica thought she could manipulate the system, thought she could play the victim while secretly playing the villain. But the truth always comes out. Always. And perhaps most importantly, this story shows us the power of a mother's love. Margaret could have stayed retired, could have let someone else handle the case. But when her son needed her most, she stepped back into the arena and fought with everything she had. That's what mothers do. They protect, they fight, they never give up on their children, no matter how old those children are. A message for you. If you're watching this and you're going through something similar, if someone is trying to take advantage of you, trying to use your struggles against you, trying to tear apart your family, remember Michael's story. You are not defined by your circumstances. You are not weak because you need help. And you are not alone. There are people who will fight for you. There are people who will stand by you. And there is always, always hope. Don't let the Jessicas of the world win. Stand up, fight back, and never, ever give up. Michael's story is one of heartbreak, betrayal, and ultimately triumph. It's a reminder that justice still exists in this world, that good people can win, and that a mother's love is the most powerful force on earth. Margaret, the Queen of Law, came out of retirement one last time, and she reminded everyone why she earned that title. She protected her son, saved her granddaughter, and exposed a heartless schemer for exactly what she was. And in the end, that's what heroes do. They show up when it matters most. They fight when others would give up. And they never, ever let evil win. So, what did you think of this story? Does it inspire you? Make you angry? Make you believe in justice again? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and let us know what state you're watching from. And if you loved this story, don't forget to subscribe to American Shadow. We bring you the most powerful, emotional, and inspiring true stories from across America. Stories that will make you think, make you feel, and remind you what really matters in this life. Thanks for watching. And remember, no matter what challenges you face, no matter who tries to tear you down, there's always someone willing to fight for you. I'll see you in the next one.